Well, I guess first, thank you to the governor for making this room available for us. The Capitol is in a bit of disarray, as many of you aren't aware. You're going to find that out soon once the legislative session starts. But we do hope to have our media coverage back online so that we'll be able to communicate. The press will be able to watch from their new offices. We're hopeful, at least. I think today's pretty good news. I think everybody who has ideas to spend what seems like an incredible amount of money should maybe temper their expectations a little bit. In the context of a $40 billion budget, $1 billion is a pretty small cushion. Just remember that the governor now will build a budget based on this, and the legislature will build their budget based on February. So it's a little bit of an advantage for the legislature, I guess, in that we have the most current numbers to actually build our budget on. But I think it's interesting for people that want to characterize it somehow as a windfall. What's kind of interesting about this is the Speaker and the Governor and I actually left $600 million on the bottom line in May when we went home, anticipating that we were going to need some money in this next biennium. It would have been very easy to spend it all. There were certainly a lot of groups that felt their needs weren't met to the extent they would have liked them to be met, but I think we were very cautious in making sure we left a cushion on the bottom line. That $600 million number held pretty steady today. So 183 was taken out of it to put it in the budget reserve, so that number came down some, but that was only made possible. So we got about a third of the people are characterized as surplus. We're actually responsible for that by not spending that in the last biennium. That's carrying forward. That's one-time money carrying forward to us, and about a third is reduced spending from what the spending was forecasted to be, and that's certainly helpful. And revenue came down a little less than we had forecasted it to be, but still enough so that when you put those three pieces together, there's $1 billion available. So I'm pretty pleased where we currently are at. I had just a brief conversation with Minority Leader Dowd in the hall this morning, and I think the initial conversation we had is, today will make our job a little bit easier. This is the first structurally balanced budget in November since, I believe, 2001. It's been a long, long time since we had a day like this where we were going into a biennium with enough money, not looking at a deficit. So really, really good news for Minnesota. It's pretty clear that the economic recovery is still, pretty tenuous, but we're heading in the right direction. Probably doing a little bit better than most of the country. And I do want to, again, in closing, thank Governor Dayton for his leadership. We'd be sitting here with a deficit today if we hadn't raised some revenue in 2013.
Well, I agree with Tom that this is good news for the state. I think what we see here is the benefits of actually governing well and putting together a sturdy budget, and the fact that it's the first real structurally sound budget we've had since 2001, since before I arrived in the legislature, is really good news for the state of Minnesota. And I think, if you compare this to where we were just 2 years ago with, November, I think, of 2012, it would have been $1 billion budget deficit, over $1 billion owed to the schools, and a lot of other, gimmicks that we have taken care of now. And it does set the state up for planning for the future. And I think that's really, really good. I think this budget should also put, it really has already, but should be the final nail in the coffin to this notion that the fact that we raised taxes was going to tank our economy. I mean, for months we've heard that our economy has been flatlining, which is, a lie, but it was repeated over and over, and I guess that makes some impact. But this budget should say that the decisions we made in 2013 and 2014 in terms of investing in the middle class, investing in education, and the taxes that we raised has not undermined our economy. And in fact, we have as Tom said, one of the strongest economies in the country. And I think the signal to me is that we should keep moving down that path. And as we look to this next session, we should be focused on continuing to invest in the middle class and make those types of things our priorities. Investing in education, and making sure we're not making cuts there, making sure that we're focusing on college affordability, making sure we're focusing on making sure childcare is available to people, as opposed to cutting significant corporate taxes, is what's going to do well by Minnesotans and Minnesota in the future. And so I hope that that is the path that people decide to take.
Questions? Bill, this is your last bite at us, probably.
Yeah, are there any, we're going to talk about some of his spending priorities. Are there any spending priorities that you have? Is there enough money to fund any new initiatives?
Well, we don't, as a caucus, we haven't gotten together yet and developed a list of legislative priorities for the session. I will tell you, we're meeting on Saturday to talk about what our members' priorities are going to be going into this session. There wasn't much point in meeting until we kind of had the revenue number to work with. I expect probably the first, I was going to make a guess, the first money that's going to get spent is probably going to be on federal tax conformity. You see the Congress, I think the House passed the bill yesterday. The Senate's probably going to follow suit. 48 different conformity issues. Commissioner France made a point of telling me before I came in the room, boy, Tom, it'd be really nice to do that. It makes it a lot easier for tax filers. And so I imagine there's going to be some appetite for an early federal conformity tax bill. So that probably is the first money going to get spent for the session. And the sooner we can get that done, the easier to make it for filers. I don't know what that's going to score, how much money that's going to be out the door, and I don't know what all the other priorities are going to be. I know the chief judge is coming in to see me next week, and I believe in the last biennium we put about $32 million more into courts to make sure that people could get their day in court in a timely way. Justice delayed is, what does Senator Latt say?
Denied.
Denied. Justice denied.
Just a lawyer.
So I guess that's probably the first meeting with somebody that's going to come and make a budget request, I think, is with the chief judge next week. And I don't know what her request is going to be. And the people that say, well, inflation's $1 billion, we can argue about whether it's $1 billion or not, but let's just agree it's not zero. And we're going to find that out. I'm going to start to find that out next week, and I meet with the chief judge and see what the courts need. We know that our corrections budget for more than a decade has been growing much, much faster than inflation. There's going to be additional needs there. There's going to be some significant new costs as we overhaul the state sex offender program. So money starts to disappear pretty fast. And then, we've still got all of the priorities that are going to make Minnesota grow and be economically competitive going forward. So looking forward to meeting with all of the different interest groups as they bring their ideas to the Capitol, and we try to flush out what's in the best interest of Minnesotans between now and when we adjourn in May.
Mr. Leader, what's the best way, in your opinion, and what's your caucus's judgment as far as you can gauge it on the transportation situation and funding? What do you think is the best way?
Well, I think the good news there is I've heard Representative Dow talk repeatedly about investing in roads and bridges. That's pretty good inkle to me that he's going to make transportation some kind of a priority. The governor has indicated to me that he's going to come with a very bold proposal. It certainly is a priority for the Senate. We actually passed a bill in 2013 trying to address the transportation needs in the state. I just would make a guess, somewhere between what the governor proposes and the House proposes and where the senator is and the Senate is. I do hope that we're able to come to some agreement by the end of session and get some significant investment in transportation. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. I was a little surprised to see my own county that I live in 2 days ago actually passed a 1/2 cent sales tax for roads and bridges in St. Louis County. Going to raise about $10 million a year. They're not waiting for the state, and I think you'll start to see more of that likely happen. That the state's not showing the kind of leadership on transportation infrastructure that I think the public expects, and I think that's why you see counties like St. Louis this week decide that they're going to have to figure out how they tackle it themselves. Otherwise, property taxes are the only revenue piece they have, and no one wants property taxes to spiral out of control.
So do you believe some form of revenue increase would be appropriate even despite the size of this surplus?
I hate to speak for the caucus yet, but I do think the Senate's probably not going to do anything with general fund revenue. I think there's probably enough general fund revenue to put this budget together, but I don't think there's enough general fund revenue to make the kind of investment in transportation that I'd probably like to see made. So I think we're going to have to look for some other revenue for transportation. I haven't had any conversation with Representative Dow about that.
Mr. Speaker, I wonder if this is kind of bittersweet as you head out of the majority and into the minority, that the policies you passed, voters might have just punished you for, but it might have just created this surplus?
Well, it certainly is bittersweet. I will agree with that. Yeah, honestly, I don't know if voters punished us for the policies we adopted. We had low turnout and $5 million spent against us, and that makes a big difference in elections, or more than that probably. And one thing that I hope that we do see in this upcoming legislative session is a renewed effort on campaign finance reform and actual disclosure around those issues, because even some of the folks that may not have been comfortable with that in the legislature last year, having gone through this last election cycle, I think may be in a different position on that issue. And so I'm hopeful we can make some progress on that. And the Senate has already passed some good bills on that front. And so hopefully we can make progress on that. At the end of the day, I think, as I look back on the last 2 years and look forward, we've left the state in a really, really good position and made incredible progress on any number of issues. And I feel very proud of the work that we did. And what I really hope is that, and I think what this election said with re-electing Governor Dayton and moving forward on a lot of these issues, is that Minnesotans think we're heading in the right direction, and I hope that we continue down that path. I think that's really what Minnesotans want us to be doing.
Is the wall painted blue yet? Is there a blue wall for us over in the Centennial?
Nor the space.
Is there a place for a blue wall?
No.
There will be. I think on behalf of myself at least, I think there really is going to be no place in the Capitol for us to do some kind of press availability. So we will, I honestly didn't know if there was one. I will hold the trigger and see if I can get some attention to that so that we get some kind of place where you can interact with the legislative leaders during a session, considering you're all the way across the street when we can.
Thank you.
Or the Capitol. Yeah.
Actually, there's pretty big.
We'll try to find something.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a great holidays.